5:05, so I'll call the meeting to order. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for coming. All right, so quick roll call.
I'm here.
Here?
I'm here.
All right.
Everybody is here.
Everybody
say
is here.
aye.
And everybody here knows who we are, right? No? Oh, okay.
So I'm Amar Hariharan, the president of this association.
Craig Osborne, CFO.
Lori's with,
I'm with the management company.
and I'm Mark Roush, and I'm the secretary. And what's your name?
Petra? All right. So let's start with the open forum. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Gary does.
All right, please. Go ahead, Gary.
So welcome to your monthly opportunity to hear me talk, I guess.
Gary,
I have,
You're in the camera.
camera.
Back of your head is being photographed.
so I have a suggestion for the board to put on the agenda for the next meeting. That would be to consider appointing an assistant financial officer for the association, somebody with experience in accounting, finance, or banking. And just in case you know somebody like that, you can consider them. I'm willing to do it, but I'm not suggesting that it necessarily be me. I bring this up for section 8.1 of the bylaws specifically authorizes the board to create this position. Some of the possible functions would be to advise on budget preparation, on reserve study information, to evaluate financial impacts of project bids, and to advise the board on investing and borrowing. And some of those things would be working in conjunction with our management company. The other thing that I would suggest would be a good job for this position would be to review the finances for 2017, because there were a number of irregularities by the previous management company, and I think we're in good hands going forward with consortium. But there were a number of things during the NCM's tenure that are not quite good. About 3 months ago, I had brought up from the audit how there was a $174,000 transfer or lack of transfer between the two funds, and the answer that came back at the time was that that was a planned transfer that didn't happen. That was not the entire story. I spoke with Adam a couple days ago and heard back from him again today, and he's determined that there was a $60,000 payment in 2017 out of the reserve fund to pay for collection expenses for the people apparently that were negotiating with the developer, which is not an okay expenditure out of the reserve fund. There is a provision where the board can allow money to be borrowed, but that requires agenda notice and board action and all that. There's no mention in the minutes. Yeah.
So are you suggesting this position be a board member?
No. And in fact, I was quite surprised to learn that only the president has to be a board member. CFO, secretary do not have to be board members according to the bylaws that we have. But I'm not suggesting that you appoint somebody different as CFO, even though that would be theoretically possible. I think it's much better to have a board member be the CFO. But the section 8.1 of the bylaws does say that the board can appoint additional officers, including specifically an assistant financial officer. I requested some financial information from consortium that related to the period that NCM was was in control, and there were a number of oddities in the finances during that period, and I think that bears looking into. Now, consortium could do that, they're highly qualified to do it. That could be a very expensive proposition to do a forensic audit. I'm just talking about looking for things that stick out like a sore thumb and pulling on those threads until they unravel. Maybe there's nothing there, but just a bunch of sloppiness.
Absolutely.
But-
I think that is a great suggestion.
I think
But,
it's a good idea.
but I would be very interested to know if our auditors provided us with a management comment letter or in any way had comments about the accounting management from NCM.
So I would, be interested to, maybe someone like you who is so passionate about accounting to do kind of a quasi forensic accounting of a book, right? And maybe not
Maybe a financial
full-fledged-
committee.
Yeah,
Yes.
and maybe not a full-fledged, forensic accounting, but I know a few, folks from the alcohol, firearms and tobacco, board that can maybe, help us out, if we ask some questions or.
I like
So-
what you're saying.
A financial
So-
committee, just like all the other, there's a lot of
That's right.
people in this neighborhood that have financial backgrounds.
Absolutely, and I am totally in for committees. I'm seeing the great work that the committees are doing, and which is making my job and,
Right.
everyone's job so much easier, right? And I do believe in, giving autonomy to all the committees so that they can do their job and come up with solutions. And I think a financial committee will be really a great addition.
And coincidentally, we discussed it during executive meetings.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And-
So are you
and
volunteering, Gary?
I would,
I heard that.
I don't think,
I'm willing,
I
I'm
don't
willing
think
to
that's a
volunteer.
question,
I
right?
heard
In the state, there's kind of a culture where you start doing something, you take on something, and that kind of lands on your head, right?
Well, as you guys know, because you've seen some of the email chains, I've been working on this for 3 months.
So it is on you,
Yeah.
right? So.
So congratulations.
Here, here. So just,
I don't, but I
so
don't
that-
think
so
that the board can take an official action
Right,
at
right,
this
right.
meeting.
So what I would suggest, what I would suggest is I will pass a motion to put it on the agenda for our next meeting to form a financial committee.
Can I make a motion right now to appoint Gary as the assistant financial officer?
I don't think you can.
No, because it's not on the agenda.
Right,
On the agenda.
so,
But we can add it to the next agenda and
Sorry,
get
don't
a
mean to
motion
yell at
back.
you.
Next agenda.
Okay, so
So
we'll-
it's going to be
we'll
added
have-
to the next agenda to appoint Gary as the.
but what I would also suggest to be proactive is everyone who is interested to be in that financial committee, fill out that form, okay?
They're at the front desk. There should be plenty there. If there's not, ask the people at the
So
front desk. to get
I
you.
see a lot of people nodding their heads.
So,
Grab a form, fill it out, so that next meeting, we not only form the committee, but we also appoint the chair, and we also, appoint everyone who is interested in that, right? To expedite it.
Could we add that to the website saying that we are forming a committee?
Right.
Sure.
And volunteers should fill out a form, because not everybody
Absolutely.
comes to the meetings.
So why don't you, send me like a write-up, and I'll forward to post it on the website. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Greg Douglas. I'd like to piggyback off of what Gary just said. I had a phone call with Adam about 3 weeks ago, before I guess he went on vacation or something. And Adam had shared with me that I was asking for invoices. And that was part of the bills committee, Rachel and myself. He said that he found in the invoices that he received from NCM that we had an invoice that was for pool doctor, but it was billed through the village. So these are
The
the...
pool doctor?
Yes.
The villas?
Yes, exactly.
Pool doctor was for over here,
Correct.
not villas.
Right, so what it is the villas paid for that invoice. And those are some of the discrepancies that we were actually looking for. So we've been asking NCM for months, I think it was October last year, if we could actually see these invoices. Where they were kept, we don't know. So that was the reason why I said I wasn't going to cut them off until we could kind of see exactly what we've been billing for. Because there was a lot of work being done, but we didn't know the scope of the work, nor exactly the amount of the work. So that was something I'd like to have it, that I'd like to piggyback off of.
I think the right way to go about it is not each individual. Like, I know you have been doing a lot of things, taking things on your own shoulder, but the right way to go about it is form a committee and then go about all this so that individual homeowners are not like asking for invoices or, individually going, everyone is going to get frustrated. Right? So you're right. I mean, the right way to do it is form the committee and then
Have the
Right.
committee chair review.
Exactly.
But he did have a committee when he was
But I did
asking
have a
for it.
committee at that time. And like I said, that was one of the obstacles that we were asking for, is the same thing what Gary's actually doing. So that, that's awesome. I just want to piggyback off of what he's saying.
I see you,
That this is
second
something
volunteer.
that has been overlooked.
I think he wants to reinitiate being the chairperson for the Villas Committee.
I agree.
I have
Oh,
one
thank
here,
you.
that one. By the way,
did the work.
She
So maybe
said,
pull us
I
in.
told her to send something to the committee, she said, there isn't one for the villas, and I go, oh, he
Okay.
doesn't get to lead this.
So
He was too good at what he was doing to not just
So
get us to leave.
you get to be on the financial committee and the villas committee. You have been volunteering. It is on camera. It is on.
Yeah, I know.
Greg, when you're too good at something, that's what happens.
Very good.
I think everyone in the room for that, I truly do. I just want to kind of make this real brief. I'll bring everybody up to speed as to what happened with the trees.
Yeah.
We did get approved from the last couple of board meetings to cut down 5 trees. Those trees have been cut. Now, it's not a pretty sight when you go over there and you take a look and you see a lot of this bark and stuff that's just sitting.
So did they actually like drill it out?
They
and all that?
actually chase the roots, they cut it, they grind it, but they left the core stuff there because it needs to deteriorate, and it's very acidic, so it doesn't look pretty. But the thing is after this fall, because in this process, it was kind of a good idea to just do it the way we just did it. Is because this summer's been really hot. You don't want to put a new seedling out there, a new tree out there, and it's going to die because of the sun, because we got a whole bunch of water. So basically, this fall, we're going to go ahead and put these other trees back in, the 5 houses with these trees, so it gives them a chance to grow. That debris will be removed, and you're going to put your tree back in your original spot. So this whole process has kind of worked out. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed. Yes, I've heard a couple things that it doesn't look good and why they leave the debris and all that other stuff. That's just part of the process. So in that process, it is working. Those trees have been removed, and we will start to move the rest of the trees out. Now, I would like the board to put this on the agenda. We were actually talking with Adam to put out a letter to all the homeowners in the 99 homes over there that this process is now available. Because, one, when we did the research on the Villas Committee, is we wanted to have a cutoff time. But we wanted to have the homeowners to have a chance to respond, to say yay or nay, because some people actually have backed out to say, no, I want to keep my tree because it's great for shade. 2 is that if you give them that cutoff time, you're not lingering, because it is a liability when it starts to tear up things. 15 years from now, we don't have to worry about that because we put that responsibility back on the homeowner. So those are the processes we were working through, and that's the process that the village is doing. So I would like to put that on the agenda to open up, that we get a letter out to all the homeowners to make them aware this is available to them, and there will be a cutoff, which Bruce needs to be involved on that, is because he's the one that has to draft the letter to say there is a cutoff and the liability now falls on the homeowners.
Okay. So, and what if they sell their homes? I mean, does the liability just transfer over to the new owner?
If it's still within that time period, yes. Because we just had a couple new homeowners that's on Mount Kisco. I called him directly when Mark got ready to close. He closed, and I said, would it be okay, because it was Lionel's house. It was Lionel's house, and he says, yeah, Greg, so I got the permission. And the other thing, too, is I found out we don't need a permit for all those homes, all the trees over there. Reason being is they're not big enough.
No, so my question is more along the lines of like, maybe like, let's say 8 years down the line, one of the tree is like eating through
Too far.
the foundation.
That's why we started it last year, and I wanted to get at least the letter out, like the beginning of this year. That's why we had formed that committee, we had it approved by John and everything, so that we start the clock and say, we'll give it 2 years to make sure that we can touch all the homeowners, and say this is a cutoff point. Because if we keep kicking that can down the road, now you got 2000.
I don't think you understood my question. So what I mean is, let's say 2 years down the line, they sell the house,
Right.
right? And they decided that they are not going to cut the tree. And the new homeowner, after like 8 years, finds out that it is cutting close.
I can answer that because I just went through it. So it's up to the new person buying it. So the home sale process, your home inspector comes through. They're supposed to look at all that, even the property line, see if there's any surface areas that's affecting your foundation. So that's just a normal thing. So the new homeowner, once they sign and record, they take responsibility for it as is. So, because I think you're saying the board doesn't want to sit here and be responsible again in the future. That won't be the case.
Okay.
Right. But still, that cutoff date is, you're saying it's 2020 of December of 2020. No matter if you got a new homeowner and you don't close, the cutoff date is 2020.
Okay.
So if the new owner came in January 2021, well, it's already too late. That cutoff is done. So you're pretty much out of it. Okay. I had just a couple more real quick. How do we get things on the agenda? There's been several HOA meetings that we've asked people or asked the board to put things on the agenda, and they haven't been on the agenda. So
Like
we want to know about policies and procedures. And we were supposed to have another committee.
Send me an email about something you want on the agenda, and then I send it to Lamar or
About that point, wouldn't if we asked for something to be on the agenda during open forum, wouldn't that be reflected in the minutes? And then I would think that would then find its way onto the agenda because of that.
Yes, so I have things right now to add to this treatment to an agenda and to add the financial agenda.
Right. And I think Rachel had mentioned policies and procedures or something.
Right, and I haven't, we haven't actually initiated getting everybody together, but I do know a few people that are interested in doing that.
Okay.
And that was previously approved. So
Okay.
now all we gotta do is get our list together and our statement of, what that covers, what that entails. And we also need to set up a meeting with consortium to be able to understand what goes on between here and consortium, so we know what we're working on, what procedures we're looking at.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, yeah, just let me know when you want to meet with me.
This is like a procedures committee or something?
Yes.
For the village, right?
No.
That is way out there. I mean,
But that's what we're doing.
It's outside.
We have a
it
committee
is
for.
outside.
Document, well, we do the documents, the bylaws, the governing documents, that sort of
The
thing.
rules of.
Well, but that's not procedure.
Yeah, I think they.
That's
Well,
not
it is, but it is.
All right,
I know.
guys, so we need to, Rachel, we need to move on. So if anybody else, any more, yes, points, questions, comments?
Mine's not as serious as everything else that we've had on here, but I did get a copy of the job description for the event planner coordinator. And one of the things that it says in there is that they have to meet with the event committee. We don't have an event committee. Can we put that on the agenda, that we start an event committee so that
Sure.
these planners and coordinators can start planning some events for us here in the clubhouse?
Could I speak to that for just a moment? So, thank you, Pat, for bringing that up. I had a quick conversation with Willie earlier, and I already had promised that for the next agenda, I'm putting on the agenda to create, I called it a social events committee. You can call it whatever.
That's fine with
event
me.
Planning, whatever it is, but it's something that we've definitely needed for some time.
Yeah.
And we've been dealing with big things, and it's time to get onto that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it. We're paying someone to do this job, and this person hasn't even themselves come forward and said, where's their committee?
Right.
So if we could just for a quick moment, since there are quite a few people here, what would people like this committee to be responsible for? Shall we call it social events? Shall we call it events? Shall it be related to?
It doesn't really matter.
Events.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on
Yeah,
here,
I-
whatever we're paying for.
I think, you guys can, whoever is interested in this committee, maybe can get together and brainstorm.
Think of a name.
Think of a name, agenda.
And if you think of a name, bring it to the next meeting so that we can set that to be the.
But I think we'll have that agenda, on, so that we can form the committee during the next meeting. So come prepared, right, with your name,
So
your,
get your own.
And if you could put the word soiree into it.
and just like how I mentioned for the financial committee, fill out the forms, right? And come prepared, and we'll finalize it during the next meeting. Okay, all right. So I think, go ahead.
Hello, community, how's everybody? My name is Larry Oakley, and I think we're still maybe vacant a few board positions, and I'm not sure what steps or how the current board is looking at filling those positions. I know there's an active vote going on which hasn't been certified yet as far as I know. And I'd like to make myself available for appointment. So here's my information. I'm going to give it to each of the board members to look at, to consider.
Thank you, Larry.
Because it would be an appointment. And since it's not on the agenda, it's something you can consider for our next meeting.
Yeah, actually, I had attempted to put onto the agenda for the executive meeting a discussion about either executive meeting, or a discussion about appointments based on something that Gary brought up at the last meeting. And my comments were going to be to make some appointments.
The reason I put on there a picture of my home, because as a board member, I do think it's important how your yards look. I'm just saying. So
Lead by example.
that is why that is on there. My credit score is probably over 800. I am retired. So I got work. But I'm
Nice.
a 30-year law enforcement career,
Very
so
nice.
I'm going to pass the background. It's a nice picture, so
So you don't want to come here in front of the camera to
but that's what you're
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice. I want to say, if we can make an official
Yeah,
statement.
so
That should be the standard.
This is, and one other thing, if you would change your middle name to Soiree, I would.
What is it with the soiree?
And to your point, we are considering that, and so like he mentioned, you know, we want
He's asked to
Bruce.
have it on the next.
Yeah, we want, since Bruce is on vacation, we need to have a conversation with him to make sure that we are not appointing someone just for 2 months. Like, so we are like kind of working through that.
yeah, and I would like to say, I would definitely like to be a board member and assist this community in reaching its goals for more than 2 years.
Yes, exactly. So that is our, so we don't want to go through the whole process and, because we are on the same board like 3 months down the line, right?
Well, two things. So I came here originally to do the same thing Larry did. Guess the camera can't see me. So I've been here for a while, guys.
So Lionel, I think you were already here, one of the 9 guys.
I was.
So
So the reason I'm here is I've talked to Lori. I recently sold my house and bought another house in Anatolia. In the middle of that process, we're still getting mail, and mail's getting kicked back, so I wasn't able to get in the election process. So I definitely would like to run. I think throughout the process, from my perspective, I think the board has done a great job. I'm a little uncomfortable with it just being 3 people. I think 5 is what we were all striving for. So I would like to have 5 people on the board. It's unfortunate that we didn't have enough candidates to kind of have a true vote. So I'm open to doing an appointment or straw man's vote or something like that. You know, I'd also like to see the delegates come back eventually. You know, I think that would be helpful for the different sections of the community. So as you consider that, I don't mind doing the same thing that we did before. My credentials are the same. I work with the exterior committee under Todd and route. I think we've done it fairly well. And I think it's one of those situations where I don't have a law enforcement background, but I'm in the military and I have 5 kids. So I'm always on the front lines.
Hopefully you will have someone backfilling for you.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's just a busy schedule. But yeah, I want to put myself up for a plan.
All right. Thank you.
Hello to the board and hello everyone. My name is Reg Carter. My wife and I live on the corner of Marcius and I think that's how you pronounce it, Marcius and Milana. I'm not running for anything, just for the record. I had my question and my comment is regarding enforcement of the HOA policies for home upkeep and maintenance. And if the homeowner is here from 4428 Milana, I apologize. Okay, good. That home was sold earlier this year and has been, the new homeowner purchased it, but never actually, doesn't appear that they've moved in. They've gone into the home, they've done some preliminary remodeling work, and there's a giant trailer parked in their front driveway, and it's been there for 2-3 months, full of trash from inside the house. And so I'd like to know what the procedure is, because I put in, I think 3 weeks ago, I submitted a complaint regarding this with this picture, in high definition, and it's still there. And although they did move the vehicle that was parked in front of it, I think to protect it, that it's a very large and probably expensive trailer, but it's an eyesore. And then their front yard is also poorly maintained, and we all like to see our front yards with green grass, so that when we do have a soiree, that, you know, so I would just like to know what the enforcement action is and how we can get that tackled.
Okay, so
Do you want us to speak for you?
if you send in the complaint a letter, if it has been addressed, then we're in between inspectors that go in, so right now we're really, there are some people in the inspection committee that would really help us with this, or with somebody else.
Are there any openings on the inspection?
Yes.
Just, I'm not wearing my shirt now, but I'm the one that has the shirt that says 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And if you've been speeding around the neighborhood, I've waved to you.
There is, I have somebody that he just gave his notice, he's going back to college, so he's not able to do this community, so I do need to find somebody. I prefer not to have somebody in the neighborhood. It needs to be somebody that's a step back, because these are your neighbors. I don't want your neighbors to hate you.
It's too late.
I know. I really don't. And so I get somebody outside of the neighborhood to do inspections for all of them. So I'm sorry, I know there were some people in the community who wanted to apply for it, and I appreciate that. And I could possibly be somebody short term, but it's, I don't know, Pam. But it would be very short term while I But anyway, the first letter goes out. If it's not done, we give them, I think, 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever, 15 days maybe. Then a second letter, stronger letter, and then they're invited to a hearing. And the second letter usually invites to take care of it. That does not mean that they're going to do it with a letter. They may just, you know, who knows? And we don't know what the tariff's going to be to get somebody to actually do what they're supposed to do. Sometimes we have to take them to court, so that's a longer process. But if we send that in, know that we did send a letter.
And yes, you absolutely can still apply for the inspection committee if you like to.
There is committee, there is inspection committee.
So I think we have to move on, so let us go over to the next approval of minutes. So are there any edits or, so
So, right, on approval of minutes, there were 3 previous open meeting minutes, and we think got all the edits necessary, so I move that we approve the open meeting minutes for June 14, June 21, and July 31, subject to these edits.
Okay, I'll second it. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries. So once you make these edits, you can quickly, okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the clubhouse exterior committee report. That is
So I think we're pretty much here just for questions.
questions. So we had a meeting, was it last week?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, right?
July 31.
So where they had made a presentation on what was going on with remodeling of our pool area. And we had asked anyone if they have questions, concerns, and they are here to answer. So,
There was one question that wasn't answered last week.
Right.
Somebody asked if we've looked at any older areas, so I have an answer for that.
sure.
There's-
What are the concerns?
There's no independent, I wasn't able to come up with kind of a way of independent without going to the contractor to find out, what he's done. So got a name of a guy who's done several for, he said all the old ones lasted, but it was also hand chosen from the contractor. So, take that with a grain of salt, but I don't have a independent, something that I found outside of what he gave me.
Okay, so anybody else have any questions, concerns? Go ahead.
So, my name is Luis Pacha, and I have one question that last week I was here with my family for swimming, and it was like pretty much 104 degrees, and a couple of residents came to me and talked to me that for the hot spot, if we can have a shade
Shade.
on the top of it, can we include, is it possible to include it?
I mean, we could ask the pool guy what he
Just
thinks about that.
suggestion.
The only thing that kind of and I don't know this, I'm not a pool guy, is kind of the heat coming off of it and maybe condensating on the top and coming down, or the chlorine residue. It's something that can be asked, but
It
I'm
was
not
just
quite.
a suggestion.
Okay.
If-
Maybe one with levers or something.
Or something.
Okay. I saw a hand somewhere there. Yeah.
Actually, my name is Christine Tang. I'm actually more concerned about the design of the pool. That really wasn't addressed to Mr. Wesley, and all the information that's actually listed on next door, and the board is succeed on the rough sketch as opposed to like the actual definite sketch. But I just have a few things I just want to show. At its current stage, the shape of the pool is like so. And the fence line, the iron board fence, actually complements the pool. So I don't know if anybody really realized that. The on next door, which you're indicating, the shape, the new shape of the pool on next door is so. And then on the poster board, it states like so. There's no actual definite, as far as design of it, and in the design world, the Western design world, I should say, these 3 are asymmetrical, and the mind can go in many different directions as far as what shape they're actually trying to project. And so the perception of it is going to be, it can be, subtle, or it can be strong, it can be suggestive, or it can be just plain, whatever it may be. What I did a little survey amongst friends, family, residents, non-residents. The suggestion of these graphics, this design, actually is obscene. And even though we're all going to say we're going to stand at one angle and we're not going to see it, or we're going to walk around, or what have you, or we're gonna go to the top and we're just gonna see a portion, or we're gonna see, we're gonna be blocked by a tree. Well, I'm sorry, we're in 2018, we're in the world of drones. This is going to be our landmark. What I'm asking you guys to do is to really give it more time to consider the design of the pool. If you guys are really going to redesign the pool, 2 weeks is not enough. I think there is actually careers. People have careers where they sit there and they really look at the design of whatever it may be, because this is going to be your trademark. Anatolia's trademark. Whatever it may be, you guys decide. And you know what? Because these are two different things, because if you look really, really closely, these are two different things, you're still going to need somebody out there to watch to make sure it doesn't actually go in a different direction. So one is suggestive, one maybe not too much. But it's still it's on the iffy side. So this is your trademark.
The shape of a spade or something.
But you might say it's a spade, somebody else is going to say something else, somebody else is going to say something. Why are we not going to have something definite? We know. We know that the shape of the pool is appropriate. We know it's that. There's no question about it. But in this, or in this, we're not sure. You can look at it any way you want. You can look at it in a
One thing about the pool currently, those 4 colors that are in the pool, that cause more than one kid to bump his head.
There's an inherent, I'm sorry, there's an inherent risk when we go in any pool. Whether it be on slide or, I'm not stating, hey, let's not shade the sides or the sports. I'm not stating that. I'm stating you guys are wanting to really redesign. I'm for it, as long as you guys really think about where it's going to go and how it's going to look like. Because this is going to be your trademark, Anatolia. This is what we're going to be.
So can I address that?
Yes.
So almost every single pool guy that we talked to said that is about the worst design you could have. And they all kind of said the same thing. It looks really good looking from the top down. Most people don't look at it that way. They look forward. I'm not sure that it's gonna. I personally don't think it looks like what you think it or feel bad for the person. It looks like that, but well, if I could finish. I mean, that was a rough thing, so it can be pointed out. I mean, a lot of things can be done. We didn't go through a design firm, a whole engineering firm, and bring this all out. This wasn't a major, thing. We found out through the process that it wasn't going to be near as expensive as we thought, enlarging one side. So we went for functionality for the people that swim every day, being a larger draw than how it looks from looking at an airplane down. So I mean, I see what you're saying, and like I said, we can certainly, point, a little bit more of the edge. But as he said, a lot of people that I've talked to have said that they don't like the design, that they like the new design a lot better because it gives. So I mean, they're certainly going to have people on both sides of the fence that and.
I understand. The one thing that when you put the design up, the mind only, we actually look at it in one. We like to look at things in a whole. So when we're looking at your proposed design in itself, you're looking at two different things. You're not looking at it as a whole.
I'm not following what you're saying.
Wait.
I'm not. So it looks like a penis.
That's right.
No, that I understand, but I don't understand the proportion. I mean, what she's trying to explain.
So guys, I think what she's just trying to say is and if I'm wrong, just correct me, that when the exterior committee came in, we did exactly what Todd was saying. We had a mission to try to get this thing from 1.2 to something a lot more reasonable for the board that we can all afford. Now that we're at the point that we're going to do a vote, please keep in mind, that's to get us to this point. That's not saying that we're not going to take in consideration the design and some of those other things as we move forward. But there has to be a little balance. So there's practicality and there's perception of design, how it influences designs. I get all that, what you're saying. I just give us time to go through the process so we can get there and trust that we'll, make it the best that we can with the absolute budget that we have.
And keep in mind that fence is going to be, and that fence needs to be replaced.
What I'm asking is for the board to either give you guys additional funds so that you guys could redesign it in a way that is actually more attractive to it. This is not balanced. This is asymmetrical. It doesn't appear to look.
Right.
It's.
So anyways, so like Lionel said, there will be like a due process.
Right.
And I'm sure, you know, the committee is not going to do something that is, you know, going to be detrimental for Anatolia as a whole. Everybody is a homeowner, everybody wants the best for the community, and they are all volunteers here, right, who is putting in their time. So, you know, if you are, why don't you volunteer your time and, you know, make these suggestions? So,
unless I volunteer my time, because I have 3 young children, unless I volunteer my time, I am not going to be heard, is that what you're saying?
no, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that. But if you have like, you know, more suggestions, I mean, why don't you, you know, volunteer time so that, you know, you can have like more inputs than just your 5 minutes here.
And you
right?
can, I
That's
can
all I'm
provide
saying.
you my email, and you can send them my way, and we'll make sure that we include that, and I can even bring it back to you.
And my email and phone number's been on every
Exactly.
one of the signs as well. And I can tell you, this is the first time that I think any of the committees heard anything about something like this. We did have one person who didn't like the design, besides you for different reasons, but this is only the
So your
second
voice will
person
be
who
heard.
said it.
I don't really see what you're referring to. Is there a nice way to say what you see in that
Well, I
picture?
mean, it's.
Looks like a
it's
penis.
not asymmetrical. Because it's asymmetrical, would you?
Does it look like a body part to you?
Yeah.
Okay, the male body part?
And the majority, like, a lot of people, but see, the population in which that I've actually asked is more of I'm gonna say 40 and younger. Family-oriented, college students, younger, and so what I'm stating though is when we look at something like where you're gonna have, and they're gonna have these thoughts or what have you, this is what Anatolia is gonna be holding on to. This is the trademark, this is gonna be the image that you guys will have. And that's gonna pass on whatever community or wherever it's going.
My question is, do they feel it looks that way when they're looking out at it, or
No,
only
I'm
if they're
saying
standing on a ladder? Because again, you only really see the design
on
kind
an
of.
angle, I mean, in general, I don't think it's balanced.
But do you think you're
But
looking
if I'm
for
looking
something
on
to
a-
be offended about? I mean, because we don't, I mean.
There's other people
that don't
see
it.
Guys, I mean, she has her opinion, right? I mean, I don't think we need to like, you know, go back and forth on this. I mean, she has, you know, as a homeowner,
Right.
she's entitled to
Email
her
somebody,
opinion.
they can have-
And, you know, her voice has got to be heard.
Maybe we
so-
can ask the pool guy to come up with 3 designs on it, based on kind of what he knows we want, and then we can put it out there as
And let us vote, right?
to everybody, and they can vote on it, and
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to validate, I would just,
Sorry, guys.
I would just like to validate your concerns, especially about the part of what kind of symmetrical influence the pool may have sitting there. So, it sounds like they heard you, and is there a date when there will be a determination on the actual design of the pool? Has that been determined yet? How far away are we from that?
the design that we've been talking to him about has been that, but it has been a rough, give us another, 1,000 square feet over on this side, we'll round it. Like I said, we can ask him to come up with maybe 3 designs, this is what he does,
So that would be a good fix, to come up with.
and then put it out
Some
there.
more symmetrical design, something that may not be as free-forming, just to, and I think those are.
Let him come up with 3 ideas and
Right. So, hang on.
I don't think she knows, I don't think she was here when the reason why they're rounding it out because of the kids running into the walls. That's
No,
why.
she heard that, she heard
I
that, yeah.
understand that. I mean, I go to the pool all the time too.
Just got a question for Todd. Is there a scope of work being proposed by the contractors, or is it just a generic contract that you're looking at?
Pretty much generic,
Is there going to be a scope of work?
yes.
Okay. Is there going to be an outside entity overseeing this, or is the committee going to oversee it?
No, that's still been up in discussion, but my understanding is that the board's gonna require a outside inspection
Because we need somebody.
team, so.
Slot meter and all that stuff.
Yeah, so my suggestion was gonna actually be to get the funding for a slump. I mean, it's a $300
Yeah.
tool, and we have our own.
But-
And that way, we can also slump test every
But I
day.
don't think the homeowner should be responsible for that, just for the future.
No, I agree, but
future failures. So if we have an outside entity that we can go back to.
Yeah, and that's something that we're gonna look at is how much liability does that defer? Because at the end of the day, you know, you've been in construction longer than I have. I'm out all the time where I see inspectors go with the contractor and go eat dinner together.
Oh, sure.
And have steak dinner.
Sure.
So I see it every day, and that's been my concern is they do become buddy-buddy. You have a inspector who's out here by himself, he naturally tends to gravitate towards people and start, you know, hey man, can you kind of, you know, it happens. So that's why I, you know, for $300 for, you know, a slump bucket, we have our own slump bucket. If I want to come back here and, you know, pull 2 random samples, I can do that, come up with my own calculations. I talk to my blade salespeople. Part of what I do is concrete profiling, grindings on freeways. So we have the ability to send samples to my blade guys who have agreed one agreed if I buy the blades from him on my next project, he'll do the inspections for us for free. So at that point, we'll actually get analysis of what the concrete is, right down to this amount of rock, this, everything.
We had our own laboratories, but we still had an outside entity. that was-
Yeah, so in my mind, maybe we have a combination of both.
Yeah, and, sorry, go ahead.
John, you brought up an excellent point, and I don't want it to get lost here. You asked at the beginning of your question about the design, about the drawings and the scope of work. Right, scope of work, thank you. Do you have a recommendation for us or for the committee as to anything that should... I'm saying...
You were on the board when you saw the scope of work.
No, I understand.
What it entailed.
I recall.
You still have that option.
That's what I'm asking. As a professional, someone who's been in this for a long time, do you have a recommendation for...
God knows.
Well, right, I'm asking. So you asked him a great question. Is there a scope of work? He gave the answer. I'm asking you, do you consider that an okay answer, or is there something else that you think we ought to be doing?
I think before a contract is signed, there ought to be a scope of work.
Okay.
You can't sign, otherwise you're opening up for just nothing but change orders all day long.
So, okay, so let's hold that. How do you...
No, I agree. That was always part of
I think
the...
this is part of the process.
So and that was the advantage of the way you guys went, is that you had certified, and that's why I feel it's really important, since we've proposed going a different way, is having homeowners also part of the inspection process, because we do need to be there to say, hey, this change order doesn't make sense, because at the end of the day, we have no idea when that concrete comes out, what we open up. And that could become a significant increase at the end of the day that everybody does need to be aware of. That the concrete has failed, it is failing, and it very well could be because of something that we don't know.
So, so what do you think is going to be the process here? What are we actually approving tonight?
The contractor.
The contractor. So then, not the contract itself, right? So once we choose
The
the
contract's
contractor...
been sent to the lawyer to start looking over.
Right.
Once we get the approval, we'll kind of, that's when we'll kind of narrow down exactly what the scope is. We know the general scope. I think we're, you know, he's talking about a more...
No, I understand.
Yeah, because they went a more professional way. We're not, we're going more the homeowner way, you know, saying, hey, you know, I want a pool here.
Right.
We didn't...
So if I understand it correctly, tonight we are going to say, okay, you know, John is going to, you know, do the contract work for us, then he will come up with a scope of work, and then we'll size up and finalize the actual...
Kind of. We have a general scope.
Right.
We're talking about, talking about change orders.
Refining the requirements.
We know the definitions of what we do, but like, as far as the actual shape, that has to be included in that scope.
Right.
Which we don't know yet. So we're asking you to approve the contract as written, subject to those changes. Because, and with anything, there will be changes as we go on.
So we're asking you to approve the selection so we can move forward. There's certain things that have to be done, saying that we can go to the solution that Todd and the team has presented, to say, okay, now the next step is design, refine scope of work, that kind of thing. But we gotta go to A, to get to B, we gotta go through A. So that's what we're asking.
I mean, I
Does that make
manage
sense?
projects with the state, right?
So-
And that is how it always happens.
Exactly.
Is where we choose from 3 proposals, right? And whatever is the best option that has been proposed, we go with that. once the contractor comes on board, then we sit down to refine the requirements, right?
Correct.
That is when we finalize the requirements and then lay out the detailed statement of work.
We're in
right?
agreement, yeah.
So then, that is what we go off of. We have deliverables defined, and then maybe there is a payment schedule against those deliverables. So, okay, got it. Go
One
ahead.
thing I'd like to add, I talked to the references for the guy that we have suggested that we would like you to hire. I talked to the references. One of them was the South Sacramento Aquatic Center, and that, nothing but high praise, zero change orders on the work that they did. The other two companies manage multiple properties. Both of them were asked the question about change orders, and both of them said that Greg held them to an absolute minimum, better than anybody they had ever worked with before.
And when you say Greg, are you speaking about the guy with GNS Designs?
The owner.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolute minimum, that he's very, very conscientious of that.
And one more thing to kind of keep in mind, I said it last time, but I think it's significant enough to say again, is that this is the guy that the contracting board uses as their expert when they have mediations and stuff. So he is the contracting board's expert on the panel.
All right. So I'm good with, the committee's recommendation. I'm sure you guys have done your due diligence on this. And, did you have a question?
I got one thing to say. My wife, she's been talking to these people. She did detailed research as part of her job before she stayed. She found this guy has 42 years and never had any complaints on his contracting license. 42 years in the business, that's almost unheard of. You get that disgruntled guy, period. The concrete was a half inch on this side of the fence. So that's what I'm trying to say. 42 years in the business, and he's the subject matter expert for the state.
So I'm hearing a really enthusiastic thumbs up.
So anybody who is not in this committee, right, have any questions or concerns? Because I'm sure you guys have all seen, we have, had all the documents out for you guys to review, right? So anybody have any questions, comments?
So the contractor is being selected, and he's going to develop the scope of work and then have to bid it out, right?
No, so the contractor has been given a loose scope of work.
Yeah, a loose one, but he's got to tie it down with price eventually.
It's tied down with price right now. It's just tying it down with, change order, stuff like that. So the scope of work is, I think if you've seen it, the whole concrete, which he was the only one to include also the kiddie pool area. So the whole concrete, similar to exactly what you guys, we kind of ran with your guys' ideas on most of this. All three pools getting redone. The only thing that is still withstanding would be the final way that back waterfall looks. We again went with your guys' ideas to pull down that shear descent that was causing all the maintenance issues. The only difference is that we decided to open it up to the community to have input on what that final design looks like. So in that scope that he has, right now it is a rough draft. It's a rough wall based on, standard rock, which we have 14,000 into. So we could actually save money by going a different route, but at the same time, that is an additional cost that will be added later.
So what I'm hearing is that whatever work that John and the previous board did with like a detailed scope of work, you actually had that as a reference to come
No,
up
yeah,
with-
I've talked to John. I mean, they had great ideas with a lot of this, so we kind of piggyback on those ideas.
Okay.
I'm just concerned about the scope of work not being detailed.
Not being up front with the scope of work.
It's just really generic
Yeah.
contract.
Correct.
It's like saying I'm gonna put a faucet in your house, well, I could put a $10 one or a $300 one.
So, I mean, we're at a.
No, I get it, but we know that he's pulling the concrete from, so we know the concrete that's coming in. The demo is what the demo is. We don't know exactly what kind of, pool shell he's, gonna be putting it back with, but I'm assuming based on the fact that he is that subject matter expert that he's doing it right. So the community in whole didn't want to go with the more expensive route that would have been the way that, and again, that I even was for. So we had to look at a different route, and that was about the only way to get it to a route that people would agree was to go with a more generic, scaled down, plan.
So just one suggestion that I have for you, Todd, again, coming from my background, is I think you guys should define the risks associated with this. So, because that is something that we always see in state contracts, is because we fully don't know what the end product is going to be and what are the roadblocks. Like you said, you dig that up and you don't know, there may be like, we may have to lay down more concrete for all
So
we know.
the largest liability that we possibly could have is the substrate underneath the concrete's bad.
Right, so all I'm saying is.
And that could get extremely
maybe-
expensive really fast.
Right, and so maybe you may want to like define a list of risks and, maybe come back and when you have the.
I would
final-
say that the lists are the same thing if you hired a contractor to do your pool in the back. I don't think that, besides what I just stated, that's the most significant risk. I don't
Okay.
know that needs to be a list saying, hey, they might put this drain in wrong, or they might,
What we are trying,
Again,
I'm sure.
we've gotten the guy that actually goes out to people who have done
Right.
the wrong
So
pools.
I
and
think
comes
what
up.
John and they're trying to get at is, okay, we are going out with a contract, but, let us not have a big enough change order that will cost us a lot more money than
There's
what
no
we
way
are.
to tell that. Until that concrete comes out.
So just so we're clear, there's a couple of ways we can do this. We're at a point where if you guys say, okay, you do the vote and you approve it, we can move forward. And it doesn't mean that before the actual ink is wet, that we can't give you some of these things, right?
Okay.
But since we're going this route, we need some sort of communication to the contractors that you've already selected to say, okay, this is step A, 1A
Right.
to get these things. So, we're open to, as Todd has explained, to taking all these suggestions and going to work with them. But we're at a point now where they've kind of worked off our scope of work. We've utilized and piggybacked a lot off of what you guys have come up with. Now we're at that step where these questions are going to be asked as a natural part of the course of, okay, now we got to get a detailed scope of work given us all that. And now, what's our
Finalize the
greatest
design,
risk?
right?
Yeah.
And understand the risk was still there, whether we went with Gordian,
Exactly.
Staples, whoever, the risk was still there. The way they went, it was just to find that this is your cost, because change orders are where companies make their money.
Right.
I mean, that's hands down where a company locks in and makes that, thing.
Right.
We believe the delta between the two is significant enough to mitigate that risk, as well as the feedback that Pam got from talking to people about, and we specifically brought up change orders because that was a risk and still is today, and it still might be. At the end of the day, if the substrate's bad, it's bad. It has to be done. Or
Okay.
we might as well just fill in the whole area and call it a day, but.
So do you, Mark, do you have anything?
Yeah, do you have a statement to make regarding construction manager?
So like I said earlier, we need a project before we can do that. We are always planning on analyzing that. As we talked yesterday, you made it clear that the board has decided that they want one for sure, so
Can't say the board's decided it, but.
I was told that the board decided it.
No,
Well-
not yet. This is the board meeting.
It hasn't been officially approved.
This is the
but
board
yes.
meeting, right?
I was told at the executive meeting that you guys did, or maybe I misunderstood, maybe I misunderstood them.
That we put off the motion, right, pending what you said.
Correct.
And I said that we will insist on it. So we could make a motion now that says that we will, as part and parcel of the approval, that we approve it. In fact, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion that we approve the plans to move ahead. Pending
Subject to legal,
Legal
right.
review, and what was the other one?
Well, construction management.
And that we have a construction manager in place. And so those are the two things. So I'll make that motion, and that we go ahead with the project, subject to the legal review by Bruce, and that there will be a construction manager.
Can I add one more thing? I think it's important that the exterior committee be a check and balance to the construction manager. So I know Todd has mentioned for us to have the ability to kind of go and measure ourselves, so they don't become buddy-buddy too much. So I think with the motion, if you would add that in, it'd be a nice check and balance, and it's pretty inexpensive.
So
for us
you
to have
want
ability.
like oversight over the construction manager, is that what I am hearing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
I'm totally in for that.
We would hope that would be the case.
Okay.
One second, do you guys agree with that? No? Brian?
So so guys,
Okay.
listen, Gary,
I don't care.
Barry,
I think
Okay.
the motion, I think
The motion is on
Okay, he
the
said he
table.
thinks the motion is good.
so I don't, so it is between the committee and us, so they are not in the committee, right?
But he has experience.
Right, I understand, then he should join the committee,
All I'm
right?
saying is, if there's something that you hear now, so that Mark can open up his mouth and say, we don't want him out of your fire.
Absolutely.
All right, all right, all right.
Absolutely.
Laura's trying to tell you, there's already a motion.
There's a motion on the table. The time for the audience is not right now, okay?
Got it.
I appreciate, that you approve of the motion. And
I'll second
so,
it.
A second from Amar.
So before we vote,
Okay, no, wait. A second, after a second, is there any more discussion? So now you can just.
thank you. I do have some discussion. This is a big issue. It matters to do it right. We have a number of people in the room who have a lot of expertise on this. I would like to know, before I vote,
There's a motion, a second, that was discussion. Do you have any further discussion?
So now we are ready to vote.
I greatly respect what Larry is saying, but I want to make sure that I'm taking into account the input from John and Brian, because I understand that they have expertise. Is it true? I'm asking, it's a question. Is it true that you're comfortable with this proposal and the motion?
I think you're setting them up. You're doing, I don't understand why you're asking them for a third time.
What?
This gentleman has already said yes.
He said
I'm
yes.
speaking
He already
for
said
him now.
yes.
I don't get it.
So must go on. He
So-
already said yes, so must go on. Do it.
Right. Yeah, so I'll call for a vote. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Yay.
One more update I wanted to say was the, as far as the pool furniture, so that's something that Pam is gonna take and run with. One of the companies that is a large supplier to HOAs is HD Supply. My best friend is the manager of the whole California and directly gets affected by sales. So I've reclused myself from any of that. I will still, give whatever, but I'll stay out of all voting and stuff like that, and then Pam will be taking over on that.
So with that, the pool stuff, the pool stuff, there was discussion about not only that, but all of the equipment, all of the things that we have.
Oh, I apologize. Oops, sorry, go ahead. Because I did want to add, and I think I might answer your question.
Okay.
We did want to, and I think I gave it to you, get also the $30,000 approved for the heaters that have been non-functioning for 2 years, that we've been saying actually work. So we have the Leslie's,
Right,
So
I didn't
no
get the
one
bid,
really
you
knew
just
that.
said.
Yeah, we
No
know
one
last
give me the
meeting.
bid from last.
yeah, no, so I did mention that at the last meeting,
Oh.
that I did talk about, so. I can summarize it really quick. Basically, we have equipment that isn't running, and then we have equipment that is running but is old. We had $100,000 bids to replace what everybody thought. A friend of mine runs Leslie's down in the Bay Area. She said, that's horse crap, no way, impossible. Call my buddy down here. I called him, he came in and said, no, this technology hasn't changed, don't replace this, don't replace this.
Just fix
Get
it.
spare parts for this, because this will be a week before you can get this. And he went through everything and brought that $100,000 down to under 30. We then, just to make sure that that was correct, put it out to bid to our pool man, who was about $5,000 more expensive. So at that point, that's why we now have made the recommendations based on what he came in and said of, hey, let's not change it if it's
Okay.
not broken.
So then you'll send the bids to her?
Yeah, so if I could maybe get, Pam probably has it, I can give you, because we were kind of hoping to get approval and get that going.
Okay, so why
So
don't you?
so if you can maybe even approve me up to 30,000, the quote's 27
To approve up to 30,000.
Okay, are you comfortable with that? Okay.
for pool equipment.
And
Is
we
that
have the
added
money?
to the motion, or is that an
It'd be an
addendum to the
Do you have the
motion?
money?
Yeah, you just got the money.
Okay. So I just want to make sure.
Is
So-
that part of the motion, or is that?
We have not made a motion yet.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion to approve up to $30,000.
For Leslie Pools.
Yeah, and I think you do have it, because you got his
No,
insurance, right?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Do I see a second?
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, so can I finish my statement?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so,
Wait, let's finish the motion. Is there any more discussion
I thought it
from
was already.
the board?
Is that, do you want
Board.
to add something?
I'm ready.
Okay,
All right.
so then call for the vote.
So I'll call for a vote. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries.
Thanks, Chad.
Go ahead.
I did,
Okay,
I
and then
kind
you had
of,
something you wanted to talk about.
Okay, so, and maybe this is something we can discuss when we get the procedural situation together. Because all of these things should be things that have actually been put on a list, and we're getting ready to start taking care of these issues.
So we are like
Hold on.
one set of a.
Hold
right.
on, please. So it also goes with anything that's in here, and I'm hearing statements on next door and whatnot, that we're not taking care of the things we're fixing, and that we're redoing furniture, and we have no way of overseeing or having a manager here on the weekends to be able to make sure that there's rules enforced where these things aren't getting destroyed again. You know, so how are we gonna work, how are we gonna deal with that?
Would you speak to the question about manager on weekends?
Yes, Kayla is our manager on the weekend. She is here in charge of that, and she does walk around and make sure
How
everybody's
old is
doing.
Kayla? Because this is the problem, is these younger kids, they don't have the
She's
authority.
a married lady with children.
Okay,
She
because-
has children.
Kayla's, just so you know, because I spend a lot of time here on the weekends, Kayla's very much in your face if she
Okay,
sees somebody.
okay,
good.
she's a
She's
I don't
she's
come here
absolutely.
because of that
No, and
anymore.
she's absolutely great. Kayla will, if you tell Kayla something, because I've said it several times, she will absolutely go take care of whatever you've told her. She's extremely well that way.
And that's why she was chosen to be the weekend manager.
How long has she been doing that? I mean,
Month?
More than that. She's been June, some point in June.
Okay.
Been asked to do.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Then if somebody's jumping on the furniture when they shouldn't, or putting the.
She absolutely would say so.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
white
Do
on
we
rice.
have signs or anything about?
Too many signs, people do not read them, and they're just clutter. We want to be welcoming. So when people come into the clubhouse here, we want them to feel like
better
this
sit down
is
and talk
an
about this.
extension of their home, and they're coming in and welcome. You wouldn't put signs all over your house. We don't want to have signs all over there. It got so bad, I came around and started pulling signs down. 'cause
The
it
problem
doesn't
is,
look
this
nice.
isn't an extension of their home.
Right, so, can I?
Signs didn't help.
So I think
That's-
my
It just made
point.
it look more trashy.
Right. My point is that this is everybody's clubhouse, right? So I'm pretty infamous in our Indian community of disciplining others' kids when they are being unruly, and I will say that openly, right?
Well, Latinos are like that too. They
So
belong
I will like, hey, get down, right? So I'm sure like everybody here can do that. And what is stopping you from,
Well,
telling
the
a
dog
kid?
eyed look that I get from parents when their kids are.
So what? So what? I don't care. I mean, if I see a kid jumping on the furniture here,
Maybe they need discipline.
I will call the parents out, right? So everybody needs to take on that responsibility and do that. So I'm not saying that the manager should not be held responsible for this, but it is also everybody's responsibility here to make sure that the investment that we are doing on our furniture is well taken care of.
But that's, yeah, well, yeah, but that's why we have people we're paying.
Right.
It's not
Well, I
my
get that, but it's
job.
still a big,
So,
big area, a
guys,
It's still not my
lot of
so-
rooms
so-
for, let's say, 2 people.
Guys,
Can't be everything.
we have 10 more minutes, and we have like some more stuff that we need to go over.
Just
So-
real quick, I'm part of the governing documents committee, and that's some of the things we will be looking at is the rules, and we will be putting them up in the, when it's all done, because we have to talk to Bruce, but we will be putting them up in there for people to review, and especially for renters that aren't getting notice, you know, for the CCNRs and all that, we'll be having them there, so when they come to sign up at the clubhouse, they can be handed the rules, and they will know. And there will be no excuses. So
And then there's ramifications if they
exactly.
don't,
Revote.
consequences.
There will be consequences. Of course, you know, everything is all attorney-driven, so we're gonna have, we have a couple of things, like we have to change some documents about using the gym because of the court case for kids. But, you know, we're looking into all of this. We're working closely with Bruce. It's a lot of work. And so, but we're gonna do it.
Okay.
We're gonna get done.
Thank you,
Sounds good.
Christine.
Yeah.
I think we need to move on to the next one. So remodel and interior committee.
Okay, so they sent an updated painting proposal that this is the one that they would like you guys to look at and Aaron.
So let's let Aaron take it away. He's the chair of the Interior
Okay.
Committee.
I just kind of want to start off with an update. You can see some of the furniture is being reupholstered out there.
I'm gonna, yeah, thank you.
I know there's been complaints about the chairs being too hard, but
Or soft.
at least you're not falling through the chairs any longer,
And
so.
nothing's poking you in the leg.
Right.
Exactly, right.
So that's underway. We're going to be moving forward with the flooring in the aerobics room. And we're just working out some mat situations with the people that utilize that for other activities. We're also working on getting security cameras set up, so we're getting some bids on that. We're working on getting some doors to kind of close off the large room from the lobby there. And some blinds, I think. Did you get the blind bid, Jane? Oh, Lori?
Oh, no, you sent it to me.
So I'm not sure if we need to submit that to the board, or if that can just go through Jane and you.
How much it was?
It's over.
It's $2,800.
I'm fine with, you know, these small amounts going back.
So we've got several blinds that need to be repaired, some need to
I
be
see some
replaced.
there.
That'll be repaired as part of that price.
So the $2,800 was to go through and repair and replace all the blinds throughout, so.
I'll let you know what's that. It came from you.
I can pass it around
Yeah.
if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, you've got it out. That's
Oh yeah, we are also working on Wi-Fi for the clubhouse. I know that's been a concern. It's pretty spotty in areas, so we're looking at options to do a blanket Wi-Fi that'll cover the entire clubhouse as well as the exterior.
okay with that? Somebody can make a motion once we put it over.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion to approve this as is.
I second.
All right, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries for the blinds.
Okay, that's one item, but you were in the middle of a bunch of things.
So that's kind of what we're working on right now. The two things that we did want to get voted on today was the painting and then the gym equipment. I didn't see the gym equipment on the agenda, but.
Is this the same thing that you guys spoke about last time about the $5,000 treadmills?
So the treadmills were approved, from my understanding, but this is the rest of the gym equipment.
It's in your board packet.
I believe the reserves have been
Yes.
set aside to cover the equipment at this point.
So when we were looking at like just the reserve funds for the 3 ellipticals, reserve funds was 15,000, I got them down to 10,000.
Awesome.
The reserve fund for each of the machine equipment is 2,800. We're able to buy combo machines for 2,100, so we're surplusing over 3,000 when we do that. And then when we go through and finalize this, the gym will then be ADA compliant.
Awesome.
All right, I'm,
Did you guys get copies of that?
We did, you put it in our things, thank you.
so we have the money for this.
Yeah, it's in the reserve.
It is in the reserve. So I'm okay with, do you want to pass a motion? I'm doing.
So let's take these, there's the paint and there's the gym. We already did the blinds. So,
The gym is the next one.
okay, let's go gym. I move that we approve the proposal as Aaron submitted for the gym equipment.
I'll second it. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll have brand new gym, brand new pool.
Is Malik
It's all
here?
good, man.
Is Malik here? No. All right, so we're coming to an item on Malik here in a couple minutes.
interior painting.
So interior painting, we did decide to move forward with Painters Plus. They're the ones they're doing the exterior. They had the best price, and we figured it'd be great to go with one company for the entire project.
I move that we approve the Painters Plus.
Yes, I'll second it. Everyone in favor?
So the
16.
interior painting total,
16, about 17,000.
16,900 for everything.
Everything?
Yeah, well,
Everything inside and out?
no, that's just the inside. So the interior, we're painting all the walls. Most ceilings are okay. There are a few ceilings that need to be addressed due to some roof leakage issues, but
And you'll notice that there's been that paint problem right here outside of this room in the drawing room. That wall, yeah, three-tone.
The ombre walls?
The multi-tone. My understanding is they're going to match the coloring, so they're going to have to decide if they match the upper color or the lower color.
so we're gonna get the paint colors from the original paint
Right on.
and stick with the same color that we had prior. The only change would be the playroom. They were talking about wanting to change that color in there, so we're gonna be working with them on
Work with them, yeah, okay.
Okay.
changing that color.
So the
So ready to vote?
interior committee's
Yeah.
gonna,
So-
or that, yeah, we'll pick a color.
So we are ready to
We're
work.
gonna let the girls that work in it.
So everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries.
Great, thank
So
you.
how long before they start the work?
I'll let them know that we're moving forward, and I think they were starting on the exterior within the next couple of weeks. Is
The
that
20th, they're actually starting the exterior, and I know he said that, just to carry on, I stayed out of the interior part, so
Yeah.
no. But he did call me and ask about the interior, I passed him off to you, and he at that point mentioned to me that he would like to run right through it, so he was gonna block that area out pending tonight's vote.
So the interior, I have
Yeah.
a question, the interior, they're gonna move everything and we're gonna shut down the whole clubhouse or?
Not the entire clubhouse, so we're gonna do it in sections. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put together a schedule with them on what days the portions of the clubhouse are gonna close. We're gonna post that so everybody knows these areas aren't gonna be usable during this time. But they won't be closing down the entire clubhouse at once, it'll just be in stages.
And on Mondays, this whole section will be able to be done, because Mondays, this whole section is closed.
Yeah, and they've got a large crew, so they'll be able to knock it out quickly.
And then that includes moving the furniture and all of that?
Yes.
And then putting it back and all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Very
paint.
good company.
Yeah, they're gonna be bringing in a scissor lift for this room, because we do have to paint the ceiling in here, so we're gonna coordinate that with the electrician to get the lighting swapped out at the same time.
Okay, excellent, thank you,
So,
thank you.
thanks interior, way to go.
So we are like almost running out of time, so,
So
We
we,
got 8 weeks on the equipment too,
excellent.
thank
because
you.
you will probably want to know when it's coming.
All right.
So let's take just a quick moment, give Todd a quick opportunity to remind folks about the exterior driveway and parking lot ceiling and restriping and painting that's coming up on the 20th, 22nd, 21st?
So on the 20th, half the parking lot's gonna be closed down. It will be this half, since they have to grab the dumpster on Monday. On that Tuesday, they will close the other half, and that's to do the ceiling and striping. At the same time, the painters start the exterior on that Monday. So they're gonna try to do entrances and exits on Mondays, while people can't access those areas anyways. And as as Aaron stated, they are commercial painters, they are used to working shopping centers and stuff, so they will keep accessibility as best they can, and they'll work with Gene on that.
Did you work with Leah's on a bid for the pavement stuff, the
Who?
ceiling? Leah's
No.
people, no?
Oh, wait, she was the lady that passed me the
Yeah,
part here?
right.
It was actually her company that was chosen.
Great, yeah.
And they came highly recommended from the Parks Department.
They do.
Okay,
Great.
so next, we are,
Right, we got a volunteer application from Malik Kafele to 2 committees, the ARC and the Remodel and Interior Committee. So that's been circulated. I think everyone's had an opportunity to look at his. It's not the
This is not the
lease,
one.
that's a separate one.
It's in the.
yes,
It's a
yes,
separate,
as
right.
yes.
So I would like to, I'd like to make a motion that the board appoint Malik Kafele to both ARC and Clubhouse Remodel Interior.
Yeah, I'll second it. Anybody else wants to volunteer, please fill out
Yeah,
the
the
form.
form.
What
Forms
is
are-
ARC?
Architectural
Oh, got it.
review.
Yeah, I I'm sorry, thank you. I should have said
ACC.
ACC. It was on the agenda as ARC. It should be
All right.
ACC.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries.
And this one that also came in from the packet that you sent a couple days ago, this is Dennis D. Felice. He's applying, he's volunteering for the exterior and the interior committees. I've read through that, and I'd like to make I do make a motion that we appoint Dennis D. Felice to the 2 committees that he requested.
I'll second it. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Congratulations. Is he here?
No.
Okay. So as I said, guys, please volunteer your time into any committees. And you guys are already spending a lot of time, and I see the passion in all of you. So please volunteer for the committees to make our neighborhood more appealing to people.
Can I ask
right?
if his contact information's in there for us to include him in email chains moving forward?
Yeah, let's give him a copy of that.
Exterior,
It's
here,
good.
you can have that one. And then give me the other one.
All
Is
right.
that a requirement for all of them so that people can connect and make sure?
It makes it easier for the committees to connect and share ideas and.
And what, if you guys have like a standing meeting, something, maybe we can post it online for people to take a look at, and if they want to just walk in, sit in on your committees to see, kind of get familiar and then apply, that may be a good idea too. So if you guys want to like let Jane or Lori know when you guys meet, where you meet, and we can put that schedule up on our website, and then, sorry.
I'd just like to make a quick comment about what you said about the support of committees. We also need to let the board know that the committee should be able to freely speak among themselves and operate among themselves with not so much influence from board members.
So I totally agree. We had that conversation already,
That
and
needs to be addressed.
absolutely. I believe, so you would never see me in any of the committees. I don't even want to know what you guys are doing till you are here reporting to me, right? So I stay totally out of it, right? And everybody is a professional, passionate about our community, and I trust you guys are doing your due diligence, right?
But
So-
the minutes are going to be posted on the website for the
Yes.
committees. So there is transparency, so everybody can see what we're talking about. So there's, if you have something to add,
Right.
get a hold of
Yeah,
us.
we are almost out of time, but I don't want to do the unfinished business. So since the ARC application, the new business, I really want to give my opinion on that. I think the ACC committee has done the right job of going by the rules and denying this application. So the person has the, sorry, so there is a history on this. So there is this guy who has a property along the trail, and he wants to have an opaque fence.
Opaque?
Right, or like a wooden fence or something, so that people.
Have a fence kind of like our gates are right out here.
An open.
It's the wrought iron,
Right.
but it has the mesh in between the wrought
So
iron.
you can't just see in his backyard.
So my personal opinion is when he purchased the house, it was as is, right? And he already should have known the rules when he bought the house. So I'm sure that there is a committee that is working on the rules and regulations, and hopefully they will come up with rules and regulations that will favor this in future, and at that time he can reapply, and if he is compliant at that time, maybe you guys can decide whether to approve or not. But as of now, I cannot support it, so I will vote against this.
So what is not being supported?
Can I say may or may not support what he's requesting?
So you know those houses that are all along the trail, that has their backyard fence right on the trail, where people can, who's actually jogging or walking, they can actually see into their backyard.
Right.
So this guy bought a house there, and then he wants to like make an opaque fence so that people can't see in.
Yeah, so why can't he
Because
put
the
like a
rules
whole
say he
block
can't.
fence, like a whole?
Because the
CCNR
Because the
say
CCNR doesn't allow that.
So
Rule
those
against that.
houses that are along that trail aren't
No one
allowed
can.
to do that.
Exactly.
It's meant to be open space
When he,
along that trail.
when he purchased the home, the fence, the clear fence that was up had natural vines, which that's okay, but over time, the natural vines have died, so now.
So now there's exposure.
Now there's much more exposure.
The point is, it is in our CCNRs, and the ACC committee has definitely
The right thing.
did the right thing. So, sorry.
Yeah, and we even made suggestions to the individual that different kinds of plants to grow, you know.
I don't doubt it. I'm sure you guys did your due diligence and you did the right thing. So.
Yeah, I might chair that committee, the ACC committee. When this came up, I looked at it and I thought, why did that particular CCNR, or what was the genesis of that particular CCNR? Because I look at it, he wants it for privacy. I look at it as being privacy, security, being able to observe your house and what's going on from the back, and also safety. There are wild animals, you have to be careful with your pets in the backyard, for that matter, your kids. You've heard about a coyote taking on a kid recently, I think, in the news. So I was curious about that. It turns out, I'll get you in a second.
Okay.
I looked at the genesis of this. I couldn't find any basis for the rule other than the original Sunbridge developer. They created it was a design standard that they submitted to, at that time, the county, Sacramento County, because Rancho Cordova didn't exist then. In it, it states that it's suggested, that those types of fences are suggested for the wetlands. I couldn't really find any place where it said it was mandatory. So from that point to how it got translated to the CCNRs, I don't know. But what I would suggest is that we take into consideration, I'm less worried about the privacy as such, somebody watching you swim. Mr. Adamopoulos, the guy who owns that home, has a pool there, and he wants some privacy. I'm probably as concerned about security and safety. So
my point is, again, he knew.
Exactly.
He knew before he bought the house, right?
We know about the rendering plant, we know, we get
Right.
it, but.
So, yes, I totally agree with his concerns that there can be animals that can come in, and that is why maybe the rules committee is looking at all those. So, go ahead.
No, so I'm saying, I just moved into the exact situation. I live in Texas Circle, right? And my fence is clear to wrought iron, and we fight the bugs and all that stuff. there's multiple ways to address it. So, you know, I know what, he's trying to keep the bugs out, he's trying to keep things secure. And like some of the other folks said, you know, we have hedges in the back, and we have chicken wire that goes below the hedges where you can't really see it. And so far, that's been pretty good at keeping the major rodents out. There's a little bit of common sense here. If you're gonna pick a property right behind a wetland,
Thank you.
you're gonna have to be on the front lines with some other rodents, right? So there's some things that you have to do. So I'm just curious, was he open to the suggestions of maybe
Where's
putting
his
some
house?
hedges and stuff?
Is it like where yours is, Lana?
Sorry,
It's
go
right
ahead.
here.
It's
I
on the
live on
agenda.
that, I live on that
It's on the
street.
agenda.
Okay, I have that same backyard.
Okay.
Okay, I live right there.
Yeah.
I'm out there, I'm trying to fight you right by it.
And you're picking your weeds.
I love it, I love the open fence area, but I got bushes and I got shrubs, and for me, there's enough privacy. I got neighbors right there on that county, it's a county fence, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not a good neighbor fence, so the
Right.
county owns that. So we're not supposed to be cutting it, touching it, hacking it, slacking it. He can build, I'm sure he can, if he wants to decrease his property line, he can build a fence on the inside of it, but.
No.
Well, then.
So, guys.
Well, what I'm saying, I guess, squeeze that part, but it really isn't as dire as you're saying. You know, between privacy and coyotes and.
That's fine,
Yeah,
guys.
it's not that.
So let us have a,
And I'll tell you this last thing. I did pay a premium to have that.
right.
Okay?
So
So,
I'll pass this motion to not approve this application. Anybody second? So, okay, so everyone in
Wait a second,
favor?
we don't need a motion if we're not approving.
Right.
There's no
Oh,
motion.
okay.
If you're not approving, you're done.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to make a motion to approve it, you can do that. But if you don't make a motion, then it's not
Then there's no
approved.
motion.
Okay.
It's unanimously
Well,
not
should we do
approved.
that for fun? Let's make a motion to approve
No,
it
let's
and then
not.
deny it?
So before, yeah, right, fine.
I have a question and it relates to this property, and some of you got a copy of an email that I responded to. It got sent to me, and it's very concerning to me through a couple of things that I've had issues with on the committee that I'm working on. And I'm sorry, Greg, respect you for what you've done, but your nose is in everything. It greatly disturbed me when I read that memo and read that you were going to support this man because you anticipated that the governing documents committee was going to change the rules. We haven't even talked about it. And for you to make a statement like that, that's you presenting yourself as a board member and already making a decision. And it's unfair to those of us that are working on these committees to have you constantly inserting yourself in our committee work. My understanding that board members, if you want to come and observe our committee meetings, you can like any other homeowner. Other than that, you're supposed to stay out of this and let us do our job. And you're not.
Fair criticism, I take it, thank you.
All right, so do we have a date for our next meeting?
Well, we have that August 30th.
And I make a motion that we have a meeting.
Earlier, right?
We need at least an executive meeting to discuss the plans.
So, let's say next Thursday, 23rd? Are you open next Thursday, 23rd?
I
For an
thought it was
executive
30.
meeting? No, he wants a meeting earlier than that.
Well, we're going to continue our executive meeting after this. We can
But
do this
he
again.
needs, but he needs the agenda. So there's some new business that he's talking about.
He just wants an executive meeting.
On the 23rd.
Executive meeting on the 23rd. All right.
Then the annual meeting on the 30th.
Right.
Okay.
On 30th? All right, so our next, so so do we need a motion for the 23rd? Okay. So our next board meeting will be on the 30th. Guys,
Do we want to have So do we want to do it at 7 or can you guys do it?
That is funny.
Right.
You're gonna have
On the 23rd.
Amber, you the delegate or is Grady the delegate?
So, they said anytime after 10:30 in the morning?
I thought they said they gave it to.
I think we should do it in the evening because I don't think anybody.
Then when you come to these, meetings,
Are you good with 6 on 30th? Yes. Are you good with 6? So on 30th, guys, we'll have the open meeting on 30th, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, okay? Did everybody get that?
Got it.
August 30th, 6 p.m.
John?
August 30th, 6 p.m. August 6 p.m.
August 30th, 6 p.m. Guys,
everybody got it?
August 30th, 6 p.m.
Okay, let's.
Our next meeting.
Thank you, Omar.
All right, cool. All right. We have 15 minutes.